It is a monumental event to explore the evolution of Pan-Africanism since the First Conference of London in 1900 and to discuss the need of sincere dialogue with the view of genuine reparations for the harm done to Africans and Afro-descendants. Feel at ease during this edition of your program Decryptage as we crack the nuts of Pan-Africanism with our guest, Professor Augustine John. Professor, thank you and welcome to Africa 24. Why was it important for you to attend the London conference? 125 years later, what did you expect from this conference?
It's important for me to be here today because I am a Pan-Africanist, have been pretty much since I was a teenager. I'm from the Caribbean. I spent a lot of time in West Africa, Nigeria particularly, but also Cameroon. And I am interested in how Africa as the motherland and its diaspora can work together to bring about change both on the continent and in our situation within the global African diaspora, whether it be here in Britain or in continental Europe or in North America. Because year after year we see more and more examples of African people being disrespected, murdered, the rise of fascism, a resurgence of barbarism, and wherever we are as African people, whether from the continent or the diaspora, we are considered to be less than human and could be subjugated and abused in whatever way. We ourselves have got to do something about that and about what we do to one another in our own countries.
The next discussion conference, the Pan-African Congress, will take place in Lomé in December 2025. What do you expect from that one?
Well, I'm expecting from this conference an articulation of issues which I believe the Lomé conference must address and address urgently. So the taking stock, if you like, of where we are and where our respective countries have been, not only since the 1884-85 Berlin Conference and the 1900 first Pan-Af Conference in London, but particularly what has happened since 1945. I mean, in 1945, African people got together from across the globe, and of course from the motherland itself, and was articulating some very clear demands about sovereignty, about getting rid of neocolonialism, about self-governance, about the importance of laying the foundations for a positive future for young people, given the burgeoning youth population of Africa. But they also focused upon what was happening to those Africans in the diaspora in Europe. They called for an end to race wars and racism, systemic racism in Britain and in France and elsewhere. And they also called for people who had fought in the Second World War to be respected and given the proper rights and entitlements in this society for which they had fought. So we need to, I see this conversation as a continuation of all that was said in 1945 and an appraisal, if you like, of where we've got to severally since 1945.
It is important to notice that there have been some changes, but when it comes to the terms of reparation, there were promises back even before 1945. What do you think the dialogue today should focus on? The whole history of reparation or more after World War II?
There needs to be reparations for the 1884-85 Berlin Conference. I mean, we got to go back as far as that. Never mind everything that happened before that, during the period of African enslavement. We need to focus very much upon all of that history. And one of the things that I think is very important, and I'm glad to see that it is being highlighted here, is the role of the masses of the people in bringing about change and in clamoring for change. I think we have been badly served across the diaspora and indeed on the continent itself by governments, because many of those governments have felt they need to be in neo-colonial mode so that they could get crumbs from former imperialist masters, right? I mean, it is a scandal, it's a historical travesty that people like Nkrumah, like Amilcar Cabral, like Sankara and those people were sacrificed. I mean, and it is the West, it is Britain and France and those places that conspired to get rid of them because their vision for the future of their particular countries and the continent as a whole was antithetical to the national interests of those people who wanted Africa to be a theater of capitalism and capitalist expansionism at the expense of local people.
Why will you say the youth represent some heritage from Sankara or figures like these?
Well, yes, I mean, I believe one of the things that gives me hope, okay, is that the young people of Africa and in the diaspora are rejecting the narrative of the past. They are questioning the hegemony of Western capitalist states. They are questioning white supremacy and the way that is used to define social relations and political relations within the countries where we find ourselves and generally across the globe. And so they do see themselves as change agents. And one of the reasons why at my ripe old age of 80, I take part in, and I love taking part in intergenerational conversations, is that I believe the work that I have done in my life to this date is important. The interventions I have made are important. And it is important that my children and my grandchildren know all of that and what it means in terms of how they define their present and the vision they have of a future. So I see it as my historical responsibility as an elder to pass on that information and that knowledge and to help guide them as they build their own compass to take them through the future.
Talking of colonialism, talking of pan-Africanism has been delightful and insightful. Professor Augustine John, thank you for answering Africa 24's questions. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. You can find our latest update in Africa on our website, africa24tv.com, and on the application My Africa 24.